May pressed her forehead to the train window and watched the green hills of rural Japan slide past like a slow, unrolling scroll. Her family had saved for 2 years for this June holiday, and her mother had not stopped beaming since they left Changi Airport.
Read your phrase book.
May sighed. At home in Singapore, she could switch from English to Mandarin to a sprinkle of Malay without thinking twice. Yet here, every sign was a wall of beautiful, baffling characters. She had memorized exactly 4 phrases: hello, thank you, sorry, and where is the toilet? Privately, she thought 4 was more than plenty, since her parents always seemed to manage everything for her anyway. The train hissed into a quiet country station ringed by snow-capped mountains, and the family stepped down onto a wooden platform warmed by the slanting afternoon sun. May had no inkling that, within the hour, those 4 small phrases would be all that stood between her and real trouble. The station opened onto a bustling little market that smelt of grilled fish and sweet roasted chestnuts. Stalls leaned together under striped awnings, and shoppers wove between them carrying baskets piled high with vegetables. May's mother stopped to admire a tray of delicately painted fans, while her father crouched to photograph a row of glistening pickles arranged like jewels in their wooden tubs. May drifted a few steps towards a stall where an old woman was folding paper cranes, her wrinkled fingers moving so swiftly that the birds seemed to leap into being. Mai could have watched for hours. The old woman caught her eye and smiled, holding out a finished crane.
Arigato.
Thank you. The woman laughed, delighted, and pressed the crane into May's palm. When May turned to show her parents, however, the painted fan stall was empty. The crowd had folded over the spot where they had stood, and her mother and father were nowhere to be seen. For a moment, May stood quite still, telling herself there was nothing to fear. They had simply moved to the next stall. She pushed through the crowd, rising on her toes to scan for her mother's red sun hat, but a sea of unfamiliar faces stretched in every direction. The cheerful market noise that had charmed her a minute ago now pressed in on all sides like a wave. Her heart began to thud. She opened her mouth to call out, then realized, with a cold jolt, that shouting in English would mean nothing here. The words she needed most, "Have you seen my parents? Please help me," were simply not in her 4-phrase store. She had her phone, but a single glance at the dark, lifeless screen reminded her that the battery had died somewhere back on the long train ride. May swallowed hard and pressed her hands together to stop them trembling. For the first time in her whole life, she could not make herself understood by anyone, and the feeling was strange and frightening. May forced herself to breathe slowly. Panicking would only make her thoughts spin faster. She remembered her father once telling her that when you are lost, you should stay near a landmark rather than wander further away. The tall station clock rose above the awnings, so she made her way back towards it and sat on a wooden bench beneath it. There, at least, her parents might think to look. As she sat, a thought crept in that surprised her. Back home in Singapore, a new girl named Anya had joined her class that year, freshly arrived from another country. Anya spoke very little English and often sat alone at break each day, watching the others laugh at jokes she could not begin to follow. May had felt sorry for her, in a distant and comfortable sort of way, but she had never once crossed the busy canteen to sit beside her. Now, marooned in this faraway market, May understood Anya's lonely silence as keenly as if it were her very own. A shadow fell across the bench. A boy of about her own age stood before her, balancing a tower of cardboard boxes. He said something in rapid Japanese, then noticed her stricken face and stopped. May seized her chance. Slowly, carefully, she pointed to herself, then held up two fingers and mimed a tall person and a person in a hat, her parents. She shrugged her shoulders wide and turned her palms up. Gone. The boy frowned, thinking, then set his boxes down. He pointed to her, pointed to his own eyes, and shook his head. You cannot find them. Without a single shared word passing between them, the two of them had understood each other perfectly. It struck May then how much could be said with hands, eyes, and faces alone. Her grandmother had a saying she had never quite grasped until this very moment. Actions speak louder than words. Here, with no words at all to spare, every small action suddenly mattered enormously. The boy beckoned her to follow. He led her between the stalls to a small wooden booth where a sign hung that she could not read. Behind a counter sat a kindly official in a neat gray uniform, sipping tea. The boy explained something, gesturing at May, and the official's eyebrows rose with concern. He turned to May and spoke gently, but she could only spread her empty hands. Then the official did something clever. He took a sheet of paper and drew a quick little picture. A stick mother, a stick father, a stick child, and a large question mark. He tapped the picture and looked at May. She understood at once and nodded eagerly, pointing to the child and then to herself. A flicker of relief crossed the official's face. He reached for a microphone on the counter, and May realized, with a leap of hope, that he meant to make an announcement across the whole market. The official's voice rolled out over the market through crackling speakers. May could not understand a syllable of it, yet she caught her own city's name, Singapore, woven into the announcement. And that single familiar word made her eyes prickle with sudden tears. All around, shoppers paused and glanced about, kindly faces turning this way and that, searching. The paper crane woman from earlier looked up from her stall, recognized May across the lane, and pressed both hands to her cheeks in sympathy. Strangers May had never met were now caught up in the small drama of one lost foreign girl. Nobody shrugged or turned away. A grandmother offered May a boiled sweet from her apron pocket. A shopkeeper hurried over with a wooden stool so she might sit in the cool shade.
Arigato.
May accepted each small kindness with a careful bow and felt something warm and steady push back against her fear. She was a stranger here, far from home, but she was not, it turned out, alone after all. Minutes that felt like hours dragged by. May sat on the borrowed stool, clutching her paper crane so tightly that its delicate wings began to crumple. The boy stayed beside her, every so often glancing at her and offering a small, encouraging smile, as if to say it would all come right. She wondered what her parents were doing now. Were they frantic? Were they retracing their steps, calling her name into a crowd that swallowed the sound? She pictured her mother's face and felt a sharp pang of guilt for wandering off. Even though she had only meant to watch the cranes for a moment, a lesson she had heard 100 times now landed with real weight. Look before you leap. She had drifted away without a single thought in her head, and that one careless step had unspooled into this whole long, anxious afternoon. She promised herself silently that, however this frightening day finally ended, she would never let go of her family's hands so carelessly or so easily again. All at once, the boy leapt to his feet and pointed urgently down the lane. Through the shifting crowd, bobbing above the heads of the shoppers, came a flash of red, a sun hat. Mai was on her feet before she knew it.
Mom!
Her mother's head turned at the sound, found her, and her whole face crumpled with relief. The next moment, May was wrapped in a fierce hug that lifted her clean off her toes, her father's arms folding around them both. They had heard the announcement from 2 lanes away and run all the way. Her mother held May's face in both trembling hands, half scolding and half weeping, saying her name over and over again.
May, May, May.
May could not speak a single word. She simply held on with all her strength, breathing in the familiar, comforting smell of home in the middle of this faraway market, and let the long, frightening afternoon dissolve at last into pure safety. When the hugging finally eased, May remembered her rescuers. She tugged her parents around to face the boy and the kindly official, then bowed low.
Arigato gozaimasu.
Thank you very much. Her father, understanding at once what had happened, shook the boy's hand warmly and bowed again and again to the official. The official waved away the thanks with a modest smile. May's mother dug in her bag and offered the boy a small enamel pin shaped like the merlion, a little piece of Singapore. The boy turned it over in his fingers, beaming, and pinned it proudly to his collar. There were no long speeches, for none were even possible. Yet gratitude passed warmly between the two families as clearly as if it had been carefully spoken aloud. May thought again of her wise grandmother's words. A firm handshake, a deep bow, a small gift pressed gently into a palm. These had said everything that needed saying. That evening, the family ate at a tiny restaurant where the menu was, of course, entirely unreadable. May watched her father attempt to order by pointing at the dishes of diners nearby, miming and smiling at the patient waitress until, between them, they pieced together a meal. They laughed at the muddle of it, and the food, when it arrived, was delicious and entirely unexpected. Mai realized she was no longer afraid of not understanding. The afternoon had stripped away her assumption that words were the only bridge between people.
You were very brave today.
I was very lucky. Everyone helped me, even though they did not have to. And even though I could not explain a thing.
She turned the crumpled little paper crane over and over in her fingers. She had carried only fear into this small town that morning. Now she would carry something far more precious and valuable all the way home. For the rest of the holiday, May moved through Japan with new eyes. She noticed how often a smile or a small bow smoothed a difficult moment, and how a shopkeeper would take real trouble to help a customer who could not read a single price. She began to keep a little notebook, sketching the gestures that worked and jotting down each new word she picked up. By the end of the trip, she had learned to count to 10, to say good morning, and to ask haltingly for directions. None of it was anywhere near fluent, yet each small scrap of language felt like a precious gift she had earned for herself. She thought often of the kind boy with the cardboard boxes and wondered whether he still wore the little merlion pin on his collar. Most of all, though, her mind kept drifting back across the sea to Singapore and to a quiet girl named Anya, who sat alone at break each day in a country whose language curled strangely around her own thoughts. flight home traced the long arc back to Singapore, and May pressed her cheek to the window once more, watching the familiar coastline rise out of the haze. The city looked exactly as she had left it, yet she felt subtly altered, as though the trip had quietly rearranged something inside her. She thought about how strange and impossible the Japanese signs had seemed, and then about how a brand new newcomer to Singapore must surely feel. Faced with a dizzying swirl of 4 languages, hawker dish names she could not begin to pronounce, and quick jokes that flew past far too fast to catch the whole long flight, one resolution kept forming and reforming in her mind. She would not wait to be asked. The very next school day, she would cross the canteen, sit down beside Anya and find a way, with words if she had them, and with patience and gestures if she did not, to make one lonely girl feel a little less lost in translation. Monday morning came gray and ordinary, the way Singapore mornings often do, but May walked into school carrying a small, firm plan. At break, while the others streamed towards their usual noisy table, she took her tray and walked the other way, to the quiet corner where Anya sat alone with her food. May's heart drummed, for she did not quite know how to begin. She set down her tray, smiled, and pointed to the empty seat.
May I?
Anya looked up, startled, then nodded shyly. For a while they ate in silence, but May did not let the silence harden. She pointed to her noodles and said the word slowly. Anya repeated it carefully, then offered the matching word from her own language, and May tried it straight back. She mangled it so badly that Anya laughed aloud. A real laugh, bright and surprised and warm. It was only a small sound, but to May it was worth more than any fine speech in the world. Over the following weeks, the quiet corner stopped being quiet. May brought her little notebook from Japan and started a fresh page for the words she and Anya taught each other. Other classmates, curious about the laughter, began to drift over, and soon there were 4 or 5 of them swapping words, miming meanings, and collapsing into giggles over their mistakes. Anya, who had once watched the jokes from the outside, was now at the very center of them. Her English grew steadier by the day. Not because anyone drilled her, but because she finally felt safe enough to try, to stumble, and to be understood anyway. The teacher, Mrs. Lim, noticed the quiet change in Anya and said nothing at all, only smiled warmly to herself from across the busy canteen. Mie never once told her friends about the busy market in Japan, about the boy with the cardboard boxes or the kindly official with his pen and paper. She did not need to. Actions, after all, speak louder than words. On the last page of her notebook, beneath the lists of borrowed words, May pinned the crumpled paper crane the old woman had given her. It had survived the flight, the market, and the month since. A little battered but whole, she looked at it often. It reminded her of the afternoon she had stood lost and wordless in a foreign town, and of the strangers who had reached across that silence to bring her home. She had learned something no phrase book could teach her. The distance between two people is never really measured in languages, but in the willingness to try. A smile offered, a seat shared, a hand held out, these crossed any border. Mai did not know what she would be when she grew older, but she knew this much. Wherever she went and whoever she met, she would always be the one to cross the room first. For she remembered now exactly how it felt to be the stranger.